Welcome everyone to TSSA Talks. This is Brian Johnson. I'm coming to you. It's live that we're recording this. That's an authentic smile from Simone on the other side there. But we're going to probably be taped to you. You're going to probably come and find this on our YouTube channel. This is a new partnership we've got here at Tennessee Soccer. We're thrilled to be partnering with the folks at the Exit Inn. The Exit Inn, you can see the big wall behind me. This is a historic venue in Nashville, Tennessee that next year is going to celebrate its 50th birthday. Everybody from Chuck Berry to Jason and the Scorchers, to get kind of really obscure and old school, to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, to Johnny Cash. All kinds of different venues of music, kinds of music have come through the Exit Inn. And much like us as a nonprofit, the Exit Inn as a music venue has really been hurt over this pandemic. So we're thrilled to be able to shine a light on them and hopefully bring some attention to them, as well as us here at Tennessee State Soccer Association. The real goal of TSSA Talks is for us to shine a light on some underrepresented communities in our game. And so we've started today with a series of interviews with Black Americans who happen to have had an impact on Tennessee soccer and who have a voice that we believe needs to be heard and needs to be shared. And I can't tell you how excited I am to welcome Simone Charley. Simone, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Well, Simone came to our state just down the road from where we are here at the Exit Inn on Elliston Place, just over on West End Avenue. She came to become a member of the track and field team. She's throwing the VUs at us. She was a all-star performer in both soccer and track and field. In this day and age of sports specialization, I'm especially excited to hear her talk about playing multiple sports and not just doing it, but doing it at a doggone near Olympic level in multiple sports and a power conference like the SEC. It's not unheard of, but in this day and age, it is a hard story to find. So we are thrilled to welcome Simone. After her career at Vanderbilt, she's gone on to play professionally. She's currently a member of the Portland Thorns. She scored her first NWSL goal this season. We're just so proud for the small part Tennessee soccer can claim the little bit of time she spent here in Tennessee. Maybe we'll see if we can't drag her back here after her playing career is over, but we hope that it is a long and storied career and doesn't end anytime soon. Although I want us to get an NWSL team here in Nashville.
That would be
The way LA is
awesome.
starting one with all those wonderful ladies who started it. Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
if you are out there, call us. We get you,
Yes.
we get Michelle Williams, Brad Paisley's wife. She'd be another great owner. Dolly Parton. We need a Nashville NWSL team, and we'll steal in the expansion draft. We'll trade. We'll do whatever we got to do to get Simone Charley to come and be our stalwart player when we come up. I've talked too much, Simone. Welcome and thank you. Tell me about, if you could, your journey to soccer. As I understand it, you were born in Boston, Massachusetts. I hope that makes you a Celtics fan. But after being born in Boston, you moved as a young child to Hoover, Alabama. Tell me about your life growing up and how soccer became a part of your life.
Yeah, so I was born in Boston, but I moved to Alabama when I was 2 years old. So can't really claim a Celtics fan because I didn't really grow up there. But
Fair enough.
um, yeah, so I started playing soccer when I was 5. Um, to this day, I can't really tell you why I decided to play soccer. When I turned 5, my parents just kind of pulled out the little rec calendar and were like, "Hey, you pick a sport and you can play whatever you want." And I just flipped it open, saw soccer, and was like, "I want to play this." And so, yeah, I just got started in kindergarten, and I just fell in love with it from the beginning. And I have an older brother and an older sister, and they were playing basketball and football at the time. And so my parents just decided that they wanted us all to kind of do something together. And so we all just started doing track together. So I started that when I was in first grade and just kind of continued that all the way through college. So,
So
yeah.
track was kind of the commonality then that brought the whole family together. Everybody ran track, but then you all had your each individual sport that you kind of specialized in. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, kind of. So it was, I would say in the beginning, each of us kind of focused more on the other sports. So, like for me, it was soccer, my sister basketball, my brother football. But then as we got older in high school, my brother and sisters just solely started doing track and started focusing on the jumping events.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I got into triple jump. So when I ran track, I was a triple jumper. So I guess I jumped track. Um, basically, my sister she was in high school and her coach was just like, "Oh, we need to score more points. How about you try triple jump?" So he just kind of threw her in it and she started doing pretty well at it. And so then my brother was just kind of like, "Well, if she can do it, then I can do it." So then he started doing triple jump. And so then I'm like, "Okay, well, then if they can do it, maybe I can do it." And so then we all just started jumping after that. So,
So
yeah.
it sounds like the competitive juices among siblings is a part of the Charley family story. I mean, when you come back home now, is it still, do we still got a triple jump pit in the backyard? Do you guys get out?
Right.
Like, who's got the best record? How does it go down across the Thanksgiving table?
Right. No, things can definitely get a little intense for sure, but I think we're all just happy for each other in our different fields. So, yeah, it was cool.
So soccer, you mentioned you came at it and you said, like right away, you kind of felt like that was the thing for you. Do you remember a moment? Was there, I mean, you scored a goal the first time, you saw your mom's face light up. Like, what was it? Can you put your finger on a thing or two that sort of drew you in when you first got your first taste?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure if there was one thing in particular. I just loved the game and I just loved playing and I loved just the development part of it and practicing and trying to develop foot-eye coordination because that's not always the most natural thing, but I think that feeling after you've been practicing, like practicing juggling, and then it finally works, or you're practicing a move and then you finally get the hang of it. I think just that for me was always so rewarding, and I just loved that, and so I think for
You are
me
speaking to a coach's heart right now, Simone. I gotta tell you, my job as director of player development. You just said you loved practice. I mean, if I could have given Simone $100 before we started to say, just say you love practice, didn't make it up. But I swear I didn't. That's organically, authentically from her. But honestly, that's a part. And again, I am not a track and field person, but like I know enough about the triple jump to know a lot of that is really about technique. I mean, you have to be a supreme
mm,
athlete in order to really excel at it. But that's not something like you just can't take somebody off the other sports field and come over and go, "Hey, lacrosse girl, come over here and triple jump." There's a lot of technique. There's a lot of real repetition that's got to go and a lot of focus and attention to detail, as I understand it as a novice. Can you draw any sort of parallels between those things?
sorry, you cut out a little bit. You said that there's a lot of attention to detail in track. Are you
In the triple jump, sorry, we may have a connection issue. Yeah, in the triple jump specifically, it's a very detailed
Yeah.
activity to accomplish. It's not something you can just go out and go, look, you're a tremendous athlete. You're very fast. Great. But like any fast person can't just triple jump and be successful at it. It takes a lot of attention to detail and a lot of practice. So falling in love with practice that you did in soccer, that had to have also gone over to the track as well.
Yeah. I would say I felt like, especially in college, I learned a lot about myself through track and field just because it is so detail oriented and it all comes down to the most minute details. And because you have to pay attention to the details, I think now that honestly is what helps me at the pro level because I think in soccer, because soccer is more subjective, people can think, oh, well, the fundamentals like passing it to the proper foot or the right weight of the pass, you can kind of get away with it or neglect it when in actuality, that's what separates good players from great players. And that's what makes the biggest difference. And so I feel like having to learn to pay attention to those details in track because track is so objective. It's cut and dry. You jump far or you don't jump far. Like there's no like, well, you try. Like no. And so yeah, you have to pay attention to the details because that is what adds up that makes a difference between that can make a centimeter of a difference. And I think learning to pay attention to the details and to value those details through track and field is now what helps me the most in soccer because it's kind of become a habit now. So
Sure. No, it's a great perspective. I think not a lot of people can share, especially with the level of excellence you were able to achieve in both these sports moving forward. So as you go back, like to me, again, as a non-track person, you look at the two sports and they're just so diametrically opposed. So it's interesting where you find those points of commonality and those points of connection. In our world, we're struggling. Many of us are thirsty to find places of connection and places of commonality, both with the things that are going on socially in our world, with the things that are going on in the pandemic where we can't be in each other's company like we might like to be. So where you find those points of intersection, to me, I mean, again, track and field, these are events that happen very quickly. And that when you're doing them, they happen very quickly. And it's a very definitive measure. You ran it this fast. You can argue with the clock, but that's what it said. You
Yeah,
jumped this far. It's what the tape measure says. I always joked with track coaches when I was in college,
exactly.
like, that's got to be the easiest sport to recruit. You just go, can you run this fast? Yes. Okay, I'd like to recruit you. You don't have to go to the nuances you mentioned about soccer. But where is an individual sport where you're still competing as a part of a team, and you guys were very successful as a team at Vanderbilt while you were there. But in soccer, everything's about subjectivity. Everything's about such a long period of time with a 45-minute half before your
Mhm.
coaches even get an opportunity to try and make anything. So the sports really couldn't, in some ways, be more different, but they really do have a lot of places where they overlap. In addition to sort of that attention to detail and focus that's allowed you to excel now as a pro, what are some other things that you've seen that have helped you from track to soccer, or helped you from soccer to track?
Yeah, I would say also just kind of learning to enjoy the process of it, because I think a lot of times, like in track, it's very much you you essentially you train to peak at a certain time. And so it's just like working out, working hard for just an extended period of time. And then at the very end of the season, that's when you finally see your months of just like hard training. And it's like being okay with just like the monotony and the tediousness over however many months in hopes of achieving whatever goal and peaking and all of that. And I think with soccer, a lot of times it's like we think that, or we just focus on the game and like, oh, I have to improve in the game and do this in the game. When in actuality, it takes working on the basics and the fundamentals and all of that, just focusing on the small things, kind of like I was saying earlier, the details, and doing that consistently. And that's how you see the results. And I think just being okay with sometimes the monotony of just like, you know, I got to work on my first touch. That's going to be me kicking the ball against this wall 50 times every day. And I might not notice the difference tomorrow or at the end of the week, but give me a couple of weeks and okay, now I see it. And I think just being okay with that training and being able to focus on the fundamentals and get that down packed is another thing that I've kind of learned how to be okay with through track.
That's really interesting what you say there, because to me and I think millennials get a bad rap, but you're talking about delayed gratification. You're talking about work you put in today, tomorrow, the next day, that you're not going to necessarily see the fruits of your labor until, months, sometimes months and months down the road. I just that's really it's an awesome point for anybody to make, especially somebody so young and so early in her career. So, kudos to you. And I'm glad those two sports could work together to help you sort of see those things. And I can't help but think that's played a part of the role in helping you to excel as you have to this point. Well, Simone, as we sort of wrap up here, I'm going to wrap up sort of series part one, and then we're going to come back and talk about part two. So at this point, you've been born in Boston, you've come to Hoover, Alabama, you've excelled in both track as a jumper, so you jumped track, as you said, and as a soccer player. Tell me a little bit as we wrap up part one, how did you find your way to Tennessee and to Vanderbilt University? What was that process like? And then we'll wrap up part one.
Yeah. So I had a pretty unconventional recruiting process. So I was not highly recruited coming out of high school. Um, I remember my going into my junior year of high school, I had tried out for, I was playing, I think, for an ECNL team, which at the time was like one of the highest levels. I don't really know how it is now. I heard there's like academy or something. I don't know how it
It'll
works now.
change again by tomorrow. Don't worry about it, Simone. Keep going.
Yeah. But back in my day.
Well, yeah,
um,
back in the day.
yeah. But I had tried out for our ODP team, and that was going to be my last ditch effort to get exposure for colleges, and I didn't make the team. And it was just like I remember being so disheartened and had almost given up on my dream of playing college soccer. I was very close with my high school coach at the time, and I'm from Hoover, so I'm only 3 hours from Vanderbilt, and academics also was something that was important to me, and so I was interested in Vanderbilt just to be interested in Vanderbilt because it's a good academic school, and so I told my parents about it, like, "I'm interested in going to Vandy," and they're like, "Okay, so we'll drive up there, do, like, the usual tour of the school and, like, see how it goes," and I remember I had reached out to my cousin because he lives in Nashville, and had told him like, "Oh, we're gonna come up and visit, and I might stop by the coach's office, see if he's there." And so I think my cousin had, I think a week or so before I got there, had stopped in, knocked on Coach Green's door, and was like, "Hey, you don't know me, but my little cousin's interested in coming here. Let me tell you a little bit about her," like that kind of thing. And so, anyways, I go. Drive up to Vandy about a week later and visit the school. Absolutely loved it. Go drive over to McGugan, knock on Derek's door. and, Derek wasn't there at the time, but Bro and Seabass were. And so I just knock on the door and was like, "Hi, I'm Simone." I just like kind of introduced myself, and was just like, "Yeah, I just came to visit the school. I really like it. I'm interested in playing here." Tried to like give them some stats and stuff, but whatever. And we had a conversation about it, but they hadn't seen me play, so it's not like they could really do anything. But they were just kind of like, "I mean, it's great you're interested, but we got to see you play." Um, so then I go home, call my high school coach, who, like I said, I was very close with, and I was just like, they need to see me play. And so he was able to find a team that I could guest play for in the Disney Cup. I don't know if that's still a thing, but
Not
that
this
was
year, but it does still happen.
okay. Yeah. And so it was like, I want to say that was in November, and then the Disney Cup was in December, I believe.
Hmm.
And yeah, he gave me a call. I want to say it was like a couple days before the Disney Cup too, so I didn't even have like time to prepare, and I was just so nervous. And I emailed Derek and was just like, "Here's my schedule. Please come to my game. Here's all my stats. Please come." And I remember it literally like it was yesterday because I was like on the sideline and I could like see them and my legs were shaking. And yeah, they ended up coming to I want to say 2 or 3 of my games, and I guess the rest is history after that. But yeah,
Oh, how
it's
quick after
definitely
that did Derek offer you? I mean, was it like on the flight home? You're already getting a phone call.
had a little phone call on our drive home, so that was definitely reassuring for sure. But I just remember being so nervous.
That is priceless. Well, from an that's not a typical traditional recruiting story for sure. I don't know if there's a lot of NWSL teammates you're going to find out there that can share the same kind of thing, but it's awesome and so authentic and so you. So that's great. We're going to end here for section one of our interview. So again, this is Brian Johnson with Tennessee State Soccer coming to you live from the exit in. We're going to come back here in a few minutes with part two of our interview, where Simone's going to take us from those days as a door down on West End to where she's now playing in Portland as a pro and excited about the future. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with more TSSA Talks.